As you can see, the smoke system performs very well. Here's how that's done. I'm using model airplane components for my smoke system. Those two red boxes that you see there are Sullivan streamer gear pumps. They're the kind of pump that model airplane guys use to fuel the tank in a model airplane. They're very reliable and they run on 12 volts. They're fully sealed. I've used these for a number of years and always had good reliability out of them, and they work excellent for this smoke system. Those are attached to a 100-ounce Dubro nylon tank, and that 100-ounce tank gives me about 3 minutes worth of smoke time because the pump is rated at about 32 ounces per minute. Now, there's two gear pumps on the system. One of those is used for filling the tank, and the other is used for actually pumping the smoke fluid to the muffler. The pump on the right is the one that pumps the fluid up to the muffler, and if you look closely, you'll notice that there's a T-fitting on the inlet line, which is the left-hand line going into that pump. What that is on the end of the T is a Sullivan remote needle valve, and that is used as basically a system to introduce a little bit of air into the suction line. I installed that when I was testing the system early on and using baby oil as the smoke fluid. I found that the pumps were actually putting out too much fluid. Some of the fluid was unburned and was ending up on the prop and on the tail. And the way I rectified that was through installation of this remote needle valve and opening that needle valve about a quarter turn to introduce some air into the suction side. And that worked very well. But later on, once I switched to professional grade smoke system fluid, the problem went away, and I currently operate the system with that remote needle valve fully closed. If you look on the exit line, which is the right-hand line that leads up and away towards the muffler, you'll notice that the yellow tubing is darkened a little bit. That's because I do not have a check valve between the pump and the muffler. I had a check valve installed early on, but it was not the right kind of check valve, and basically I couldn't get it to uncheck, and so I just removed it from the system. The fuel tubing is a little bit darkened because there is some exhaust bleeding back through the gear pump into the tank, but it's a very minimal amount. I've been running the system this way for probably 20 flight hours now, and it does not seem to be a problem at all. The pumps are self-priming. They prime in a matter of 2 to 3 seconds. So if I want to do a smoke takeoff, I'll just bump the switch a little bit to prime the system before I apply full throttle, and I can get smoke pretty much on demand that way, so I'm not worried about finding an appropriate check valve. Here's a close-up of the pumps. They have very convenient forward, reverse, and off switches on them, which is helpful for filling the tank. I can turn on the master switch in the airplane, activate the smoke switch while having the Sullivan streamer position in the off position, and then I can come to the rear of the aircraft, insert the filler tube into my smoke fluid bottle, and then manually activate the switch to turn the gear pump on and fill the tank. So it's very convenient. You can pick these Sullivan streamers up at a place like Tower Hobbies or your preferred supplier for, I think they're going for about $30 now. The system is attached to the plane with 4 Adele clamps, and I would estimate the total dry system weight at about 2 pounds. I activate the smoke system by flipping a switch that's attached to the throttle control lever. It was very important to me to have this switch located on the throttle lever so that I could activate the system without taking my hand off of the throttle or the controls. Now this next picture is probably the most important thing that I can show you because it's a picture of a mistake that I made on this installation. I was getting ready to send my exhaust system off to the powder coater, and I knew at that time that I wanted to install a smoke system. I was in a hurry, and so I grabbed a couple of pieces of 1/4 inch chromoly tubing, drilled some holes in my exhaust elbow, and welded them in. And the thinking at the time was this would be a good spot to inject the smoke because the exhaust is really good and hot after it exits the engine. I put 2 instead of 1 in just for good measure because I really wasn't sure how much fluid volume I would need and if 1 would be enough. The shiny bits of wire that you see inside the red box there is just some safety wire that I wove in between the 2 tubes in order to act as a heat sink because early on I had a problem with excessive heat conducting down the tube and causing heat cracking in the rubber tubing connected to them. But I'm not going to go into a terrible amount of detail, technical detail, about why this is a problem, but I will give you a brief, very brief explanation. So on a 2-stroke engine, the exhaust is tuned, and the tuned exhaust is essentially what makes up the exhaust valve on the engine. And the tuning is very important. And that tuning depends on the length of the tuned portion of the muffler. It depends on RPM, EGTs, and a lot of factors. And what I found when I was injecting smoke fluid into this elbow was that the engine would pick up 400 to 500 RPM. And that was happening because the fluid was going into the exhaust and cooling it off and changing the timing of the pressure pulses inside the exhaust. What it was doing is causing the pressure wave due to the cooler exhaust temperatures to return back to the exhaust port sooner, and it was taking a little bit of unburnt fuel that would normally escape out the exhaust port, and it was shoving it back in and increasing the power and the RPM. It was actually improving the fuel economy, power, and performance and all of the engine at that particular RPM setting. But there's a danger to this in that if the pressure wave returns too soon, it not only shoves the raw, unburnt, ordinarily wasted fuel back into the cylinder, but it can overdo it and it can bring hot exhaust gas back into the cylinder, and it can actually burn your piston near the exhaust port. And this is an aircraft engine we're talking about. My life depends on it, so I realized that I needed to change that situation. If you want to know more about this subject, you can do a general Google search. There's some real good information to be found in discussions surrounding 2-stroke racing motorcycles. Those guys actually want to inject water into their exhaust, and they sell tanks and little computer controlled pumps that monitor RPM and do this on demand in order to tweak their power band. And that's a whole subject that I should have been aware of, but was not before I installed the ports in this location. So, lesson learned. Now, here's a picture from head on of the new injection port location. It's basically in the middle of the muffler, and for the most part, it lies outside of what you would consider to be the tuned portion of the exhaust. So that means that in this location, injection of the smoke oil and the cooling of the exhaust temperature does not have any appreciable effect on the frequency and the speed of the pressure wave, and so there's no detectable change in engine sound or RPM or anything like that in this location. Now for this new location, instead of welding in a chromoly tube, I welded in a threaded NPT bung and used a compression fitting combined with some 1/4 inch diameter stainless steel tubing that I left at a length of about 5 inches so that there's plenty of distance for heat from the muffler to dissipate, and that helps the rubber tubing last longer. The rubber tubing is not actually rubber, by the way. It's made from Viton, which I found to be one of the higher temperature resisting tubes that's also compatible with the smoke fluid. Before I drilled the hole for the new injection location, I had a real concern about what was actually inside the muffler. Fortunately, I own a uh, a fiber optic borescope type of camera that I inserted into the exhaust and was able to get inside and see what was there. And the blue line in this picture illustrates how the curved, tuned portion of the exhaust wraps around and actually goes into the muffler portion, roughly as indicated by the blue line. The next bit of structure inside the muffler is where the second rolled seam is from the right. There's a baffle there with probably 15 or 20 holes drilled into it. These holes are, probably 3/32 of an inch in diameter, and they're there to create the necessary back pressure in the tuned portion of the exhaust. So that forms a chamber of sorts. And that's where I'm injecting the smoke. If I had it to do over again, I would probably move the injection port a little bit further to the left so that as the fluid emerged into the chamber, it would actually strike this bit of the tuned portion. My thought there is that I might get slightly better uh, consumption and burning of the smoke if it actually touches a hot conductor. But as it is, the way I've installed it, it works extremely well. I really don't have any regrets. As I mentioned earlier, I originally started testing the smoke system with baby oil because it was something that was easy to find. As it turns out, though, it's rather difficult to buy baby oil in large quantities, not to mention a man buying gallons of baby oil at the store looks kind of odd. So I was fortunate enough to go to Oshkosh this year and run into the owner of SmokeSystemHelper.com and arranged to purchase 5 gallons of his smoke system fluid, which he claims is a knockoff of the professional grade Castrol product. I have to say that it compares very well with Super Dry, which is popular in the model airplane community. This fluid burns extremely well, does not leave 1 ounce of residue or one speck of residue on the tail of the airplane. I've been extremely pleased, and even with a healthy freight charge to get it from Arkansas to Kansas City, the price still beats Super Dry by $30 to $40 for the 5 gallon quantity. Now, I do get just the slightest bit of residue on the prop blades. Here's a picture of one of the blades, and you can see in the red circle where I've taken my finger and swiped it through the residue so that you could see it a little bit better. But there's really not much residue here to speak of. When I was running baby oil, I could see trails where basically liquid had hit the prop and centrifugal force had spun it off the end of the blade, so it looked like rain had hit a windshield. But that's not the case with the smoke system helper oil. It leaves just like I would call it kind of a dewy appearance. And when I rubbed my finger through it and then rubbed my fingers together, I could hardly tell that there was any oil on the prop at all. So certainly not enough to cause balance issues or any long-term concern at all. I'm very pleased. And that's contrary to what most people told me before I took this project on. I was told it would dirty up my airplane, it would ruin the fabric, it would unbalance my prop, that it would do a number of things like that. But So far, the results are proof that if you use the right fluid in the right amount, that you're not going to have anything excess exiting your muffler. After all, if you do this correctly, all of the smoke oil turns to smoke and there is no liquid residue to cause problems for props, fabric, or anything like that. Now, you've listened to me ramble on about the details long enough. Let's go back to some flying videos. This is one of my favorite, captured at a time of day where, as the plane lifts off, you can see the shadow of the smoke against the ground, and you can tell there that for several feet behind the aircraft, the smoke is blocking the sun as well as the wing is. So it's proof positive that the smoke quality is extremely dense and concentrated. Here's a low pass. Now the winds are blowing pretty good today, so the smoke is blowing away quickly, but on a good calm summer day, I can take off with smoke on, and by the time I come around midfield downwind, there's still a substantial amount of smoke lingering on the runway. Here's one of my favorite shots. My buddy Jeff took my wife for a ride, and I went up at the same time, and we captured this great flyby. We'll close out with a nice head-on shot. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you've learned something. If you would like more information about the cold Firefly, I have a very detailed build site located at experimentalfirefly.info, and I have more videos on my channel, JWolf104.